Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's kick off the episode. So in the last 24 hours, some news came up that I wasn't quite expecting from PlayStation. We've seen in the last few years Nintendo release the Super Nintendo Classic. We've seen a NES Mini or Classic Mini, whatever they wanted to call it. There's been plenty of rumours about the Nintendo 64 and the Game Boy and other Nintendo platforms to get the similar sort of treatment over the journey. But PlayStation today actually did one themselves. They announced the PlayStation 1 Classic. It's a miniaturized version of the PS1, just like what we saw. It's essentially ticking all the same boxes that we saw with the NES and SNES Minis. And it's going to be releasing later this year. In this week's episode of The Insider, we're going to talk about that, the games that feature, and some of the bigger picture sort of discussions that are already going on about PlayStation. And we're going to get all of that in this week's episode. So let's talk about this PlayStation Classic, what it has on it, and what we're going to be getting in the package, because I think that all that's important and underpins a lot of what we're going to be talking about next. So the PlayStation Classic is going to be releasing on December 3rd. It's coming at $150. You can pre-order it beginning today via EB Games and your JBs of the world, and if you're an international viewer, whatever your retailer is. It's going to be coming out for 150 Australian dollars. It includes 20 games, 2 controllers, no analog sticks, which blows my mind. We moved through that generation to the DualShock, so why aren't you using a DualShock? Like, give us twin sticks, that's ridiculous. But whatever, maybe they're an add-on that we can get later on. And it includes 20 games, 5 of which have been disclosed to us so far. Those games include Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Ridge Racer Type 4, Wild Arms, and Jumping Flash, whatever that last one is. That's 5 of the 20 there. Now, I'm interested because the PlayStation 1 is the second highest selling console of all time. And in my opinion, it is the one with it's either the best or the second best library that we've ever seen in games. Specifically for JRPGs, which is a genre I adore. There's a lot of really high quality games there, and what they've shown so far is a spattering of a lot of different things, but how they're going to be able to whittle that enormous catalogue into 20 games and be able to justify many of the inevitable omissions is going to be really interesting. Even the wording around it is like what it will have at launch. Does this mean that this system connects to the internet and we can download more games? Or there's a new version that will come out? Or, there's a few questions that need to be asked about that, all surrounding the games that are going to be on there. But all of this whole conversation about this PlayStation Classic all links into a larger conversation that has been had about PlayStation over quite some time. And we're going to get to that next. Over the generations, there's been a lot of conversation about what PlayStation has done. Now, there's no disputing that PlayStation has been an incredibly successful brand over many years. The PS1 and the PS2 are the 2 highest selling consoles of all time. The PS3, despite getting off to a slow start, still shifted to about 80 million consoles, and the PS4 is far from done, and it too has already sold about 80 million consoles. The Vita and the PSP have all done well as well, but they've taken a lot of influence from what Nintendo's done over the journey. And there's obviously some stories there about what happened between PlayStation and Nintendo way back that led to the original PlayStation in the first place. But they take a lot of influence. You can look at what happened with the PlayStation Move controller and how that was informed by what was going on with the Wii at the time. We've seen other little peripherals emerge over the journey that all, if you take a look back at them, they all harken back to something that Nintendo had already done. And that's fine. But we're seeing the same thing occur here in the case of this PlayStation Mini or PlayStation Classic, and I'm left wondering, do they have any ideas of their own, or are they just going to keep picking up what others are doing well recreating it, and because of the PlayStation name, expecting to sell X number of million consoles. It's fine, but I'd love to see some new ideas. VR is the first indication of that, and I hope they can continue leaning into that sort of idea. The second thing I think we need to talk about is what this means for backwards compatibility. And Xbox has already had a quick dig at PlayStation since. When the announcement came up, we saw a little trailer that indicated the 20 games, the release date, the price, blah 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 blah. And shortly after on Twitter, Xbox posted a little picture that was talking about their backwards compatibility with the Xbox One that doesn't require you to go out and buy another console. You can just put in your old disc, provided the game's compatible, and they're constantly making more and more games compatible every month. You can put in your old disc, or you can download the game off the store, and you can play it on that machine. You don't need another box, you don't need another device. Xbox is playing the long game, the smart long game, and they've just shown up the fact that PlayStation is still refusing to budge on backwards compatibility, at least this generation. We've spoken about backwards compatibility in past Insider episodes, and we spoke about how that was one piece of a larger puzzle when it came to the online space that PlayStation needs to address. And I think the fact that we're seeing this PlayStation 1 Mini suggests that they haven't yet paid attention to that conversation and are not prepared or able to do anything about it. It's really interesting to see where things are going. Let's see what happens next year. Will we get a PlayStation 2 Classic?
We tear it up, we rule the world, we can be heroes for a day. I'm so in awe, I'm so amazed, I'm so amazed. Oh wow. Oh wow.
And so that concludes another episode of The Insider. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. All those buttons are down below here. And hit that notification bell. That way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes Patched, The Insider, Player 2 Plays, The Late Game Review, Gamer School, and a whole lot more. There is some awesome content on the channel. Go and check it out. For written content, please visit the website player2.net.au where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, and a whole lot more, all contributed by some of the best games writers in Australia. So please go and check out their work. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au. Consider kicking in a few dollars. At the lower tiers, you'll get access to early episodes, such as this, such as Patched, and a whole lot more. At the higher tiers, you get monthly exclusive episodes and the ability to join us in the Player 2 podcast. Consider checking it out. We'd love to hear your voice on the show, and we'd love for you to get access to all these things, this wide range of content early. It's awesome. Check it out. For rolling updates, you can find me at PaulJamesP2 on Twitter. The website you'll find at Player2AU on Twitter. And until next time, that is the conversation about the PlayStation 1 Mini. If you're interested, you might want to go and pre-order it right now because from all reports, they're selling out very, very quickly. I'll see you next time.